Today we'll be doing our Mastery of Money seminar, and what we'll be doing is basically looking at esoteric concepts to allow you to get the money that you want in life. Not necessarily to become millionaires or to become very, very wealthy, but to have enough money to go through the physical plane, to buy those experiences that you need for yourself and for your loved ones, and to feel a sense of it all just coming to you naturally as an outpouring of the love and the creativity that you put out, rather than this whole concept of like working hard and struggling and forcing the whole thing to come about for you. Basically speaking, the way that I handle esoteric money is I teach people to raise their energy. I teach you to become more life force, more power, and then when you do that, people will be pulled to you. People will show up. They're going to crawl over the walls and under the doors, and they're going to lower themselves in through the ceiling, and they will be there. And when they show up, what you have to do is bill them. You have to have a way of billing these people so that you can basically make money. And that means being organized, having a product or a service or something that you can give to these people when they show up in your life. For you to raise your energy and have all these people show up and then you haven't got a way of working it with them, you won't have the abundance, you won't have the creativity, and you won't have an energy pattern that will go all the way. And basically, some of you are going to need lots of money. You're going to need loads and loads of the stuff in order for you to buy those experiences and to create the changes that you hope for yourself. When you look at the physical plane, you can understand that it isn't designed for people to be rich. If we divided all the wealth up in the world among all of the people, okay, in fact, everybody would be millionaires. But the system is so designed that a few people have the wealth, and the rest of the people do not have the wealth. And because it is designed like that, and because it's come down from thousands and thousands of years, the common man has to put in a certain amount of transcendent energy to pull himself or herself out of a system that isn't designed to assist you. I mean, imagine if you could go to work and in 1 week you could earn, let's say, $2 million. And you think, oh, Friday, I think I'll retire from here on out. The system isn't designed like that. The way that the system is designed is that if you work really, really hard, it will spit out just enough cash to keep you just above what I call the revolution level. You know, where you're not out in the street tearing the system apart, but they've fed you just enough to keep you going so that you don't blow away the system. The world that we live in is just owned by a few people. You know, let's say 500, 1,000 families own the entire world, okay? And they also own the governments, they own the societies, they own the banking systems, they own all the financial institutions, they dictate what interest you'll pay, how much rent you'll pay, what mortgage terms you will receive, you know, what your car payments are. They decide everything for you. And they also decide how much money the average man in the street will have. And if you are, let's say, a small businessman and you've opened a business, you're going to open it in that kind of energy pattern, in an energy pattern of control, restriction, keep everybody bottled down, give them a little bit so they don't revolt, but don't give them too much, because we don't want these people coming up out of the pack, becoming too self-empowered and starting to take away the control that the big people have. And so as you look at that, if you open a business and you're this small businessman, if you've got a creative idea, you can only earn money from the energy of those people around you. And if all of those people are like close to starvation or just making it through or just squeaking through, how much disposable income have they got to buy your product? And so we're all affected, whether we're independent business people or whether we work for one of the big institutions or we work for the system, we're all basically affected by the fact that the whole thing is not designed for the common man. And you've heard me say that many, many times in this seminar and in other seminars, that the world is not designed for the people. It's designed to keep the institutions up. It's designed to keep the philosophies up. It's designed to support the governments. And you, as the ordinary working people, are always sent the bill. You get to pay for everything. If there's a mistake, you get to pay for it. You know, if there's some kind of disaster, you pay for it. And as you look at that, you can understand that the only way that you can pull out of those feelings and out of this conditioning that basically is absolutely designed to hold you down is by you having a force of will that is stronger than the force of will that is trying to control you. And you have to create inside of you an energy pattern a bit like, well, imagine if you were like swimming along in a swimming pool. And you're down at the bottom of the swimming pool and you're holding your breath and like Swamp Thing like grabs you by the ankle, you know? How much would you want to swim to the surface? You know, how much effort would you put into getting up and getting out of that and getting a breath of air? And for some of us, that's how much effort we have to put into becoming financially independent, mastering money. Because our societies do not teach us power. They teach us that we are weak, that we have guilt, that we're useless, that we're supposed to support everything else, we're supposed to send money to everything else, that none of it is really for us, and that if we do too well, somehow that pulls us away from being godly or righteous or good. And of course, that's a bunch of hooey, because the life force or the God force is absolutely abundant. It'll give you anything that you believe in and more. You only have to look at nature. You can look at a cherry tree or an apricot tree, and it has more apricots on there than you can ever eat. It has more cherries on it than you can eat. You know, and when you look at it, it has that splendid abundance naturally. You know, if a man designed an apricot tree, it would have like 2 itty-bitty apricots at the top of the tree, and they'd be out of reach, and they'd be a little stale, and you'd have to have permission to go climb it, and a certificate for when you got it, and then a third of the apricot would then belong to somebody else, and eventually you'd wind up with just the pit and a little bit of apricot, you know? And that's how the system is designed. When you look at it, when you look at the physical plane, we are here as these transcendent beings, as these infinite beings inside a body, and you have the ability through your thought forms and through your feelings to absolutely redirect and change your life. I believe that you're not your body, that you're not your mind, that you're not your sexuality, that you're an infinite being inside a body, and that you took on the limitations of the physical plane in order for you to be able to transcend them. The physical plane, the humans that are on this physical plane, are basically like in a circle. And the circle is created by the electromagnetic waves of the brain that set up this field or this force field that we all live in. And that force field cuts us off from the abundance of the life force. It cuts us off from the God force. It cuts us off from other dimensions of existence and makes us or gives us the illusion that what we see is real. But in fact, the physical plane that you see is no more solid than your thought forms. It's no more solid than the feelings that you have within you. The fact that the physical plane is moving at the speed of light gives it the illusion of being solid. But in fact, you're looking at basically a non-solid world, a world of thought form of consciousness. Your body being the same thing, your feelings and your thought forms all being different and varied forms of the one and the same energy. And as you look at the way scientific research is going now, you can see that the scientists are getting nearer and nearer and nearer to a unified force field theory, where all energy will be just one and the same energy. And that's my feeling, and that's the sort of mystical or metaphysical approach. I believe that as an individual, you can be in this circle of activity that describes the physical plane, and you can scratch and you can hollow and you can thump and scream and rip people off and compete with them and shove and push, and you can become wealthy. You can drag yourself out of the programming, out of the circumstances. But my way is, I feel, more fluid and simpler, and that's basically to work upon your intentions, to work upon your concentration, and to move into a pattern that allows wealth to come to you naturally. Because the other system, where you're sort of scratching and biting to get money, it's almost like your wealth means somebody else's poverty. Where my way is, you can become wealthy and then allow everybody else through your wealth to become even richer. It's not like there's any limit to how much is out there. And it's not like there's any limit to how much money you can have. There are millions and millions of dollars every day that are lost and left lying around, and people die and they just leave it in little sort of carrier bags someplace. You know, there's millions of opportunities for cash at no effort at all. And it's not like you becoming wealthy is going to detract from somebody else at all. Because we're not living in a finite world. We're not living in a world that only has this much resources or this much wealth. There are more resources to be discovered. There are more creative ways of doing things. There's always an ever-expanding amount of wealth. And what you're doing as an individual is, you're saying, listen, I'm happy to concentrate on making money because I understand that if I don't concentrate on making money, I won't have anything. You know, if you concentrate on the phantom rapist comes out the woodwork and bites you on the bum. If you concentrate on money, you get money. But of course, the societies and the way we teach our children disengages them from money. It disengages them from having wealth, because we teach our kids, hey, it's not okay to be wealthy. You know, the meek will inherit the earth. The God force doesn't want you to be wealthy. It just wants you to be this little thing and being terribly poor and being terribly thankful for the little itty-bitty that you got, you know. But of course, that's not true. That's just a load of hogwash that was handed down over thousands of years. You know, the life force could give a damn how much money you have or don't have. It is not emotionally involved in whether you're okay or not okay. If you're doing splendidly, then your splendidness will help others, because you'll be doing economic things, creative ideas, you'll be spending your money, hiring people. You know, you're helping the world by becoming powerful. And yet we look at a physical plane where everything is designed to not allow us to become powerful. As you come into the physical plane, as soon as you're born, or some people would say even before you're born, that mind of yours is beginning to record every feeling, every event, everything that's ever been said to you, and you suck all of that up. You know, you can put a person in a hypnotic trance, and you can take them back to when they were 11 years old, to their birthday party or something like that, and you can have them tell you how many people were there, what their names were, how many cans of Coke they drank, how many packets of Jell-O was eaten, who did what. Everything is in your life. Everything is all there. How many steps you took from the parking lot to your seat right now. You have a memory of all of that. And you imagine this small babe, and it's lying there and it's sucking in all this information. Okay, and it's born to parents who think that, like, working hard is honorable, that you have to work hard to make it through the physical plane, you know. Well, let me ask you a question. How many of you here think that you have to work hard to make money, or you've been taught that you have to work hard to make money? Let me see your hands. Okay. You see, they sold you that. They sold you that. The people that run this circle of activity, okay, sold you that because they wanted you to work for them. You know, they wanted you to work hard for them. Okay? And so basically speaking, we buy into that working hard is honorable, or working hard is how you make money. Making money has nothing to do with working hard. It's nothing to do with effort or struggle. It's mostly a matter of being balanced and organized. And as you begin to center on your creativity, people show up that want to be a part of that creativity, want to be a part of that action. They feel your security, your strength, and they sign up for it and they pay you for it. So it's a simple transference of energy. You transfer them an idea, and they transfer you another idea called money. As you look at that, you understand that, like this small child inside this body, it begins to suck in all of these belief patterns, and it has no volition of, you know, as to what is going to go in there. You know, whatever goes in there is whatever goes in there. So if the mom and dad are fighting over the rent, that's in your subconscious mind. You know, if your mother's into sort of saving and clipping little coupons and there's a big stack of them in the kitchen, again, that's in your mind. Save coupons. There isn't going to be enough to eat. You know, reserve this. You know, eat the leftovers. You know, do this and do that. And I'm not saying you've got to waste stuff as you go through the physical plane, because I don't really agree with that either. But we take on whatever our mom and dad or our father and our mother thought. And of course, so many of our fathers and mothers came out of a generation when there was a depression, when there was a great amount of difficulty, and so they're not able to express a more transcendent, more fluid understanding of money. Today we live in the largest and most fast-moving capitalist society in the world, and there's millions, there's billions that are moving around at any one given moment. And yet here is this mind that takes on all this sort of stitch in time saved 9, and a penny saved is a penny earned. And we take on that mentality, and then we wonder when, as we go out into the physical plane, as young adults or as teenagers, or we go out into the workforce, we begin to resonate that into the life force. And the life force, or the energy, that the force field that we're in, reflects back to us exactly what we believe, exactly what we put out there, and it gives us back struggle. It gives us back there's not enough. It gives us back, you know, work for no wages, save your money in case something dreadful happens, do this and defend that, and you know, and if people don't like this or don't like that, sue them for the money or go chase them for the money. But you know, there isn't enough, and that whole energy of like there not being enough and there isn't going to be enough for you to get through is sold to you as a way of disenfranchising and controlling you. Inside this circle, everybody believes life to be real. And the circle is created, as I said, by this electromagnetic energy that leaves your body, which I believe is created by the oscillation of the brainwaves. And so as we look in this physical plane, we're looking at a physical plane that deals totally with manipulation, totally with restriction, and totally making sure that you don't come out of the pack. Okay? As you're going through the physical plane, you're taking in everything that you hear, everything that you feel, everything that's ever said to you, and you're also taking in all the rest of the energy. You're taking in energy subliminally. You're taking energy in below your threshold of consciousness that are not even aware that you're taking it in. And we know from the subliminal tapes that we sell through our catalogs and so on, that the mind has an ability to hear affirmations that are placed 40 decibels below regular earshot. And so we have a track of music that rides up and down, you know, getting louder and softer. And underneath this track of music is a loop tape that runs these very powerful affirmations that are designed to create behavioral change. And as that loop rides up and down with the music, it stays 40 decibels at all times below the music, below the earshot. And we know from our research and the research that's been done in various universities in the United States that the inner mind hears that and accepts it. And yet think of you know, you're going through life, and how many sounds and how many feelings and how many opinions are you a part of that are very debilitating, that are very weakening, that you may not have chosen, but that became a part of your mind, you know? Like you'd be at the supermarket, and like somebody in two lines or two aisles further over to the right might sort of pick up a can of beans and go, oh, look at the price of those beans, the world's falling apart, bong. And that would enter your mind if it was 40 decibels below your regular earshot. So you're a product of not only what society has told you can't have, not only what your parents told you couldn't have, but you're also a product of all the thoughts and feelings of the people around you. You can't sit next to somebody in an audience like this and not pick up whatever they are. Their feelings are booming out and they're pervading your feelings, okay? And if you want to change your seat in the break, feel free, you know? But basically speaking, you're it. If a person touches you, there's an energy transfer. If they look at you, there's an energy transfer. And so can you imagine this young being that's coming into the physical plane, who doesn't have necessarily any experience of how to do it, and being debilitated with all of this stuff, and then going out, putting that energy into the universal law, and getting back exactly what they put in, and they put in for struggle and difficulty and hard work and lack and not enough, and the universal law gives them back that stuff, and then they can say, you see, life's really hard. Okay? And each one of us came out of that same product. So for you to get out of that energy pattern, you have to push against it. You have to literally force yourself to allow yourself to be in control of the money that you make and to master the money. And the mastery of money for me is, as I said, not necessarily becoming very, very wealthy, but being in control so you spend less than you earn, and you earn enough to buy yourself all the experiences that you're ever going to want on the physical plane. When you think about it, you create a creativity, you create a product or an idea, it's energy, it comes from consciousness. Then you take it out to the people, they respond to it positively, and they give you money, which again is energy. Money is neither good nor bad. You know, the folk that said that money is the root of all evil, or the love of money is the root of all evil, they just didn't have any. Because you've got to have money to get through the physical plane. You know, you've got to have it. And of course what happened was that we were taught that somehow money and spirituality didn't mix. And yet when you meet a person that is truly spiritual, they'll have a lot of energy, and so automatically they'll have a lot of money. In the olden days, let's say in 500 BC or something like that, it was fine for a person to withdraw and to go up on the mountain and sit under the banyan tree or whatever they wanted to sit under, and to pull away from the commerce of things and to contemplate upon, you know, the light of God or whatever it is they wanted to do. But you weren't born there. Or if you were, you know, right now you're here, you're in commerce, you're in travel, you're in making things happen. It's a totally different society. And I feel you could transcend by pulling out and sitting up on a mountaintop. But once you had the power, you would have to come back down into the physical plane and do something with it. And so the philosophies that came out of poverty and seeing it as beautiful and seeing it as righteous came out of a time when there wasn't anything to do. You know, Buddha couldn't turn on the video and watch a couple of videos and play his CD player. He only had sitting under the tree. You know, sitting under the Bodhi tree was the only game in town. So that's what he did, you know. But we're not in that time. We're action-oriented, we've got things to do, there's people you've got to meet, there's things you've got to build and create, there's children that have to be brought up and developed into strong and powerful human beings, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for individuals that are prepared to push against the system without confronting it, because the system will never look after you. You know, it's not designed to. And if you look at the history of man, all the governments have let all the people down all of the time, you know? And if you don't believe that, you don't know anything about history. You know, you might want to repeat it after me. All of the governments let all of the people down all of the time. Because basically speaking, governments are individuals that are looking after their own interest. You know, they're looking after their own power unit. They're looking after their own election. They're not worried about whether you're making your mortgage payment, you know, in downtown Arkansas. They could give a damn, you know. They are just worried about their own position. And they get to play the game, and they get to spend your cash, and then they send you, as I've said before, this love letter called a tax bill that you have to pay for their creativity. They don't actually create any wealth for themselves. The wealth of the nation is the individual man, the individual female, the working people of the country. We create the wealth, and they just get to play with it. You know, and the way they play with it is they get to spend it pretty much any way they like. They get to bill you anytime they want to bill you. And if they run out, they just print some more. And so we're looking at a situation where the whole of the circle, the whole of the people that control this circle, the families that run the world, they have a control of the money. And money to the common man is life force. It's God force to a guy that doesn't have a spiritual quest, a person that doesn't have a quest or doesn't have a belief in any kind of higher transcendence. Those people that are purely in the physical plane, money is their God force. And once these people got control of the money, they could control the life force for the world. And then they could control the destiny of the world. And there's none of you here that haven't been controlled by the big families that run the world. Because they decide everything, from the price you pay for a shirt to how much you pay to go to the movies. Everything is decided And the whole system is designed not for you not to come out of the pack. And as long as you remember that, now you can push against it and you can say, gosh, that's dreadful, that's awful. Why have they designed it like that? They designed it because they're into control. They're into making sure that none of us ever get out, okay? And you can push and you can rant and rave and you can have your little placard and you can go down to D.C. and stand there in front of the White House and it won't do anything for you. The only way you can win your freedom is to have enough cash to pull out, okay? And to disengage somewhat from the feelings of the world, from the emotions of the world, so it isn't controlling you, okay? And that, to me, I think is incredibly important because you've been sold this bill of goods that says you can't have it, and then the whole thing is designed, and if any of you do too well, they take the money back from you. All the money you have is basically on rental. You don't have any wealth of your own. I mean, look, for example, in property taxes, okay? They take, let's say, 1% or 1.5% of that property from you every year, okay? And governments go on for hundreds of years, so they can wait to get the house back from you. But they take, let's say, 1% a year. In one generation, they've got a quarter of your house. They didn't do anything for it. They never paid you. I mean, nothing happened. They just took a quarter of your house back. In 2 generations, they got half the house. In 4 generations, they'll own all of the real estate of the country. And that's how property taxes work. So you think they've got your interest at heart? No, they're just chipping a little bit of your income back, and they time it or they place it so that it's like this creeping thing that you're never really quite aware of. And then suddenly you think, my goodness me, I've given 9% of my house back to these people. Why did I do that? Well, you did it because they passed a law saying you had to do it, and you don't have options. I believe in obeying the laws, but I also believe that you can design your life to take maximum fluidity within the law. Within the tax structure, within all of the things that you are allowed to do, that the people that control this circle allow you a certain amount of modicum of like elbow room, and then you use that in order to become powerful. And so as you look at that, you can see that for you to become powerful, to have enough money, you have to begin, first of all, to look at what's stopping you getting money. What are these feelings inside of me that don't allow me to be wealthy? Because for you to be wealthy and to become wealthy and to have people show up and they want to share their wealth with you, because there's only one place that you can get money, and that's from the other people in the physical plane, because we're the only people that believe in that stuff, okay? You can't get it from any place else other than the other mugs in the game with us. And so we have this energy that's absolutely neutral, and you have to create an energy from within yourself and then get these people to come along and give you the cash. To do that, you have to look at, hey, what do I really feel? What do I really feel about money? And when you look at how we deal with money, you can see that, like, for example, you may have had feelings. I know I certainly did. I remember thinking that if I became too successful financially, somehow it would pull me out of the society that I lived in. Like if I do too well, I might have to leave this ghetto, that kind of feeling, Or if I do too well, all my friends won't like me anymore. Or if I do too well, it may not be as loving or as strong as God might want for me, because I bought into the fact that God wanted me to be poor, And so as you look at that, you can see that, like, we have hundreds of these limitations. I mean, thousands of them. Stitch in time saves 9. There's one. What does that mean, for goodness sake, If the thing tears, chuck it away and buy another one. What are you doing all the stitching for? I mean, who's got time to do stitching and stuff, Oh, stitch. I mean, you get another. It's as simple as that. But we buy that. We buy, for example, things like women are no good at figures, like they're no good at mathematics. That means that somehow or other they're not going to make so much money. And of course, women are just as good as anybody else with mathematics. You only need an $8 calculator. You can work it up to $10 billion, And I do a lot of business with females, and we travel all over the world, and we use a lot of feminine talent in various areas, and they know how to charge, and they know how to make it work. I mean, it's simple. It's like, well, here's $1,000, lady, and here's $20,000. Which would you like to have, I mean, it's obvious. You don't have to be brilliant to figure that one out. And so, we buy that stuff. We buy that stuff. We buy, like, getting inside the little circle, getting in the corporation, and taking what they eke out for us, There are other types of limitations that deal with, like, religious beliefs, where if you're not holy if you're rich, or that kind of thing. And then, of course, we have all the limitations that deal with, well, if I do too well, nobody will like me. If I do too well, it'll be such a responsibility looking after all this cash. How the heck am I going to figure out what to do with all of this money? If I do too well, it will cause me problems. I'll have all these responsibilities. I'll have to defend it and so on. And we buy that stuff. Philosophical limitations about your relationship to money. spiritual limitations of one kind or another, sexual limitations. Maybe if you're a minority, you may feel that in this society you don't have the ability to do as well as the people that are in the majority, like as if the God force of the money knows what the color of your skin is, and thinks, oh, I'm going to give this guy a hard time because he's different or something like that. And as you look at that, you can see that all of the people out there in a society or in a circle that is not designed for them to do well with anyway, and all of the belief patterns they've got and all of the limitations, you can see that, you can understand why the people aren't rich, why they never make any cash.